out here.
Hi, my name is Carlos. I travel, I tattoo, and I take it all in. One country at a time, one tattoo at a time. Travel is what inspires me. Tattooing is what guides me. This is how I interpret the world. This is the global canvas.
What's up, y'all? Good to see you. Good to have you back. Things look a little different right here, do they not? I went to the hardware store today. Oh man, I'm really losing my hair. I went to the hardware store today and picked up some masking tape, like some blue paper tape, and masked out the entire foreground figure so we can work strictly in the background without damaging anything in the foreground. So pretty pumped to do all that today. The goal is to get the background as blurred out as possible, like to a violently blurred out degree, like to way too much so that we can then be forced to pull focus back in. Because right now, even though underneath this tape, of course, but even though our figure is in sharp focus and the background is blurred out, there's still like little edges here and there that are too sharp that compete with the foreground background, and we want it to be incredibly photographic. We want it to have a lot of depth of field to it. So what we will do is work on buffing out all the shapes up until like this point, coming back to the front, so that we can maintain that depth of field moving backwards. That is the goal. So we'll see if it works. I hope. Who knows? I might not have it anymore. Let's find out as a team. So this is a pretty exciting exercise, honestly, because I already have the tones on the canvas where they're gonna go. I just need to replace them wet and then buff it all out while it's still super wet. One of my goals here will be, and I don't know how well it'll be able to translate to the camera, but one of my goals is to keep the same like wetness or viscosity of each color, because when they come out of the tube, sometimes one is more runny, one is more thick, and you normally mix with your mediums to get it to like the right consistency. But one of my goals will be to get all of those colors about the same consistency, so when I put it on and then go to blur it all out, it all spreads and blends evenly. That's the goal. And also, I was watching the movie. Did you guys ever see the movie The Woman in Black? It's based off a pretty good book, and the movie is okay. But I was watching it last night, and there's a scene where Daniel Radcliffe is walking through a haunted mansion, essentially, and he's holding a candle and an axe, and he's like trying to like pursue whatever this spirit thing is, and there's like cool blue tones in the background of something that's otherwise like a more neutralized, like haunted palette, and the warmth of the candle on his face was making a lot of warm tones, and I was really inspired with how cool that background was. So I'm gonna pump up the blueness of this a little bit, the background that is, so that where our figure stands in the foreground, where she is 100% warm tones, it'll give it even more contrast and depth. So these are my goals for today. Let's see what we can do. Which brushes do I want to start with? I don't mind using something big today because we're just putting vague shapes down. So let me grab this. Do I want this filbert or do I want a different one? Let's see, I could use. Got a lot of knife here. Let me hold them out so you guys can actually see what I'm looking at here. I got this big filbert. Where are we at? There we go. I got this big filbert. I got this flat, this like bright, and then this round. And then I also have a bunch of these cheapos that I got from department store. Let me start with this one. I like this guy. So the first thing we're going to do is mix up our tones here. and then just kind of start dropping them in, build all that up for a while, and then we'll blast them apart. So let's do that. I'm gonna make sure to pull in some liquid. My camera's a little tight on my palette. I apologize if I have to mix off screen for anything. I'll just go ahead and make like a pile of liquid in the middle here and get it like all in my brush so it's nice and gooey and juicy. Okay, so I will go dark or light to dark, I suppose. Mixing up my tones. So I'm gonna grab some white, some of this warm white. This is titanium white. There's this one up in the corner, and then warm white is the one right next to it. You can see the difference on camera. And we're just going to go in and start plugging in some tones. And even though it's going to look like it's the exact same thing that's there already, that's the idea. We're trying to replace these colors. And I have my reference pulled up. You can see it up here. I have it pulled up. I'll use it for just verifying like what a tone is before I drop it in, but that's basically it. Because mostly what we're doing is just replacing what is already there on the panel. We're bringing a little bit of this Naples yellow just to warm that up a little bit. That's like kind of over here. It's nice having this masking. I've actually never done a mask before like this. Never, not once. I did painting for many, many years before the whole experiment of quitting it, and I never once tried this where I taped something off and then, you know, painted behind, so to speak, and then went through and blended and all that. So I'm excited to see how that turns out. I want to get these tones in here, and those are like a richer, sandier type color, so I will use some of this yellow ochre. Doing a lot of vertical strokes right now, just to make sure I'm keeping those vertical lines there, and then when we blur it, we'll blur in all different directions and it'll make it really super cool out of focus. I try so hard not to use terms like cool when I mean like neat, because when you're talking art terms, you want to make sure that you're actually talking art terms. Alright, so let's see. Use this Red Lake Oxide. I really like this tone. It's so useful for me. And I know I was talking about cooling things off, so let me, after I get these background tones in here, I'll pump in some blues throughout here and definitely under here and around the, I suppose, the street that's behind the street, and then see how that goes. So let me finish notching out these vertical warm tones first. A little bit deeper and darker. Yeah. And we'll see when we blend it and blur it out how much of the previous layers poke through, but I know to a degree they are going to inform this layer that's on top of it. I just don't know how much because it's been a while. And what this whole channel is about is failing through this painting as a team. So we'll see if we can pick up some of those underlayer tones while we're blurring out our background here. This is a pretty like exciting day, and it's like no stress. Everything that's underneath it is already dry, you know, so if there's anything that I don't like about today, we can always just grab a rag and pull it back off. Gently, of course, we don't want to destroy what's underneath it, but yeah, it's always an option. Okay, so I'm going to notch out a couple of out of focus blurry like windows like in here, and then we will start the process of cooling this stuff off. And you can see on my reference, I'm kind of just vaguely suggesting and indicating what is on that reference in the background. I will reiterate a million times again and again and again, this image was populated using Midjourney AI, so it's a garbage reference of reality. So really what we're doing is we're pulling from our head and trying to apply a sense of what we know to be real just from being alive and not being a robot. Alright, let me use a palette knife here because some of these are drying out. Crack the surface on that blue. Let's make a little pile here that we can start cooling our tones with. I'm gonna add a little bit of blue or two there. I'm gonna mix this like a brighter bluer pile over here. This is a French ultramarine blue. I'm still using, we're on like the 10th hour of this painting, and I'm still using the exact same palette that I started with. Just mixing stuff here and there to push the colors this way or that way, but it's literally all the exact same piles of paint since we started. Good trick to keep the palette wet is to put it in like an airtight box, and then the seal, like a Tupperware container, but then the seal where it clicks over, you put like some Aquaphor or some Vaseline around it, so that when you click it, it really like completely seals it. Lets zero oxygen get in or out, except for what goes through the plastic on a microscopic level, but that ain't something I'm too worried about. So got some coolness here. A little cool here. God, I can't wait to start blurring this out. It's so fun. It's been fun doing this painting with you guys. The people who've been able to chime in while we're live, and the people who've been commenting on the posts. Jessica Shimku, hello from Denver. Hello, Jessica. Good to have you here. Feel free to fire any questions my way. Keep me distracted so I don't overthink anything. I was just saying it's been fun working on this with people. I have been so tempted in between streams to just pick up some paint and go in and tune some stuff here and there, but that would be cheating, right? So not something that I'm gonna do. Jessica, the goal of today's session here is to re-drop background tones and then blur it out like crazy so we can have a really photographic background. So even though these kind of look like, once we start blending, it'll make a lot more sense. And then we can blend and put more in, then blend and put more in, and blend and put more in, and that's part of it too. I really want to avoid over muddying anything, but if we do, it's oil painting. We can always layer more on top of it. That's never been an issue. So what I'm doing is I'm dropping indications of where like blurry effects will end up being, and then let's just jump right into blurring some of the stuff out so we can see where we're getting here, if we're getting anywhere. Let's see. Just using a soft brush. It's kind of like it's a mop brush. Just circular motions, light pressure, up and down, left and right. Just trying to destroy the sharpness of any of the pigment that's on the canvas. It'll be most notable in here where there's some big thick chunks. And I'm gonna switch to a fan brush when I get in there instead of this mop, so I have a little bit more control. Do you see how that's starting to soften up? It's pretty rad. I kind of like this. Alright, I'm gonna use this fan brush. See that? We're gonna take care of these spots here. Very light pressure. Cross hatch it. Up, down, left, right, circular. Anything we can do to break up those tones that are in there. Look at that, starting to soften up even better. Oh, that's so dope. And like I was saying, like it's going to, the underlayers are going to inform to a degree, because you know they're going to pop through a little bit. But I can already tell that this is getting way softer. This line right here is way too sharp, so we're gonna plow that out in a second here. Yeah, just those first couple of passes. We haven't even been streaming for 15 minutes, and those first couple of passes are already feeling really nice and blurry. Okay. Let's go ahead and take care of this edge here, because I don't want to get anything too sharp. Right now, that tone is kind of like a taupey, deserty type color, and it's right next to a warmer yellow. I do want some cool tones in the background, so if I were to mix my Naples yellow with some blue, it's just going to straight up go green. So let me just run along this edge first with like a 50% between that taupey tone and this Naples yellow, so I can really remove any solidness of that. And this is just my brush, this isn't even the blender yet, right? So I'm basically always holding these two brushes, so I got one to apply the paint and one to blend out the paint, one to apply the paint, one to blend out the paint. And when you see me doing this little motion down here, all I'm doing is like knocking off excess paint using the vertical bar on my easel. So now we drop some of this pigment here. I'm gonna blur it out. Look at that. Bye. Nice soft background. The most satisfying part of this is gonna be the tape peel at the end, when we get to yank this tape off and see how sharp our foreground looks in comparison to the background. So now that I got that, like I said, I don't want to just mix my blue with my Naples yellow, because then it'll turn green. But I might drop like a little line of a cooler tone and then pull it off. Or maybe, since I know that these are the warmer tones of the flesh are going to be around the face, the hand, maybe I should just drop a little bit of coolness in here to separate that. I'll do a little cool behind her head. Let's do that. Right behind the hair there, and I got this pile of lighter blue already made up, so I can just drop right in real quick and just kind of go plink plink. Watch this. Brown. Couple little dots. Grab my blender, up and down, left and right. Look at that. Push that right back into space, and now it's a little bit bluer than it was before. The goal is to not make anything too green. Down. Now I'm using really light pressure when I do this, like barely touching the canvas, but you can see how it just goes in and then dissipates, goes in and dissipates. I feel like any person that wears makeup already knows how to do this process, but for people who are just like, you know, enjoying watching the oil paint, oil painting is fascinating. And if you don't do makeup and then you do oil painting, you'll be like, holy smokes, this is cool. So hopefully somebody's impressed. All right, let's see. I shall do some cooler tone, running this vertical line over here. Where do I want to put it on the inside of this one? Up and down, really light pressure, almost barely touching it. Push that into the distance. Boom, looking good, looking good. Where else should we do some cool tones? There's like a little bit of like a wobble back here. You see this, like this yellowy tone right here. It's like pulling straight and then gets like a wedge that's, you know, not accurate. So let's go ahead and fix it. Let's make this warmer caramel color come a little bit straighter, and then we'll buff it back out. handle. Nice. There we go. And then again, fan brush, up, down, real soft. Sometimes I hold it like this, sometimes I hold it like this, depending on the specificity I'm looking for. Like, I just want to blend this edge off here, so I'm going to hold it vertical. And I can flip it horizontal to blend the whole bad boy in. A little bit better. I do still find this edge to be a little bit sharp, so we're going to diffuse that by adding a lot more white. Clean off my brush really quick. Some more of this white and warm white blend here. And what I want to do is break up the regularness of this straight line here. So I'm just kind of soften like that. Then blend it up and down. It's so fun, like, this painting is pretty small. Like, if I put my hand up here, like, it's barely, it's, you know, like an eighth of an inch above the height of my hand. So it's pretty small. So part of the challenge that I wanted to go for with this particular painting, being my first painting back, my first foray back into oil painting, I wanted it to be hard. I want it to be difficult. I want to push the boundaries in front of people and see if I can pull it off again. But having said that, one of the things about smaller paintings is you need to be much more precise on a smaller level. If this canvas was 3 foot by 5 foot, a little brush stroke here, a little hair here, you would barely notice it, because as a whole, proportionally, those little tiny variables would be so much smaller. Because this is a smaller panel, it's only 8 by 10, sometimes I gotta get stupid close and really sharp focus my eyes to see what is and is not working in and out of focus, and it's pretty fun. Let's see, like for instance up here there's some tapering things I'm not really into, so I'm gonna straighten those out a little bit. Just blend them in. Tune, fine tuning. God, I can't wait to do this peel, this tape peel, but I gotta be a patient boy. All right, so now we have a really like obvious line of demarcation right here, where that cooler tone in the background and that white tone of the street, and it looks like we're in a shadowed alley right now, so that's just like gray pavement. But I really want to buff out that edge there. And this is just some light that's showing underneath from the edge of the alley. So let's indicate both, or let's take care of both those things at once. I'm gonna go back into my my white here, and I'm gonna tune it with just the tiniest bit of a cooler gray. Sorry, I keep mixing off my screen. So I want it light and cool at the same time. So I go ahead, oh man, that's like a perfect tone match. Alright, so I want wet paint on both edges, but I'm going to blend the edges differently. I'm going to blend the top way soft, and then I'm going to blend the bottom slightly less soft. So I kind of just need those to all be wet. And if I'm going one tone into the other, I'm going to have to wet this tone as well, this silvery gray cement that's underneath it. Which is cool, or cooler tone than the warmer stuff, so that's gonna be helpful too. Alright, so now I got that set. Take my fan brush, come back in, do a general blur here, and then I'm gonna really focus on disappearing that top edge. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. So now I gotta take care of this bottom one. Just not to as soft of a degree. These are lost and found edges. This is diffusing edges, diffusing light. Pretty basic stuff, just kidding. Alright, what else can we do before we start peeling? I think I'm going to do a little bit more contrast up here, because it seems like this tone on my reference is a little bit darker, even though it's out of focus, it's just a little bit darker, so let's go ahead and darken that up. We're going to mix up this like warmer coppery color. I'm gonna throw a little raw umber in there just to make it darker. How do you like my palette? The biggest mess you've ever seen, huh? Really exciting day for painting. And remember, I want to keep everything like in this circle as blurred as possible, so we might even add some tones here and some tones here to blur out these edges some more too. Alright, that's starting to look good, but I haven't even blended it yet, so let me grab this blending brush and start obliterating some edges here. Very light pressure, very light pressure. Indicate the end of that alleyway without having any kind of sharp edges. These tones that we put in here, light pressure. I'm going to kind of pull my brush strokes in like the perspective lines just to, because like even on like the really small scale, it's going to make a difference. Like when you look at it, when it's all said and done, like the brush strokes moving on that angle will push the direction a little bit. Close, precise in that blend. Wow. Okay, a little bit better. Definitely losing a lot of stuff in here, so let's start dropping some pieces in there. I want it to be a little bit cooler still back that way, so I'm going to mix up a cool dark. I'm going to use some black, ivory black, raw umber, a little transparent red like oxide, but then I'm going to pull in some French ultramarine blue so I can get it to like a near black tone, but one that definitely has a coolness to it. And we'll just start dropping in a couple. Oh, that's nice. Alright, couple shapes and indications of things that are going to be blurred out momentarily. This will be a good example of this technique, because right now I'm working on like some real subtle tone transitions up here, but this is a lot more stark we got going on down here. And I'm also going to make sure that this line here where the wall touches the street is also very much wet, so that when we blend one into the other, it blends nicely. The like white reflections of the wetness of the wall, I can add that in later. Without doing too much muddiness, I just want to make sure to bring back some contrast here. Cool. And then I gotta wet up the ground over here, so I will grab a little bit of liquid, and it's like a cooler cementy type color, but it's a little bit brighter than that, so let's come up here, see if we can make a nice patch. It's a little too warm, so we're going to cool it off some more. Much nicer. Much nicer. Oh, perfect. Beautiful. Okay. I'm not going to concern myself too much with like making sure it's a razor sharp line of focus to the vanishing point, but I'll just kind of like hold my brush up to because this is our vanishing point right here. Just kind of make sure we're on a decent edge. But that's about it. I'm not going to go too crazy with that. Make this nice and wet. Because I got the mask here, dude, it took like an hour just to put this tape on. That would have been the most boring episode of this painting series, so I did that off camera. But yeah, and I don't really need to blur out anything further than that, so I'll just bring this line down to there and call that. And now, ooh, I still need some dark on the bottom of the wall. Here. Oh, maybe I did already put it in. That's fine. A little more won't hurt. Okay. So now I'm going to blur this out. Going real dark into real light, so I want to be very careful not to muddy anything and just kind of soften it one tone into the next. And I gotta blur out all that still too, so. And what we're focusing on right now is the transition between this light tone and this dark tone. Don't worry if this doesn't match any of that, because we can go over that with the subsequent layer to make those wall tones match that. We're really just trying to push the focus of the depth of field back this way. I should have like grabbed like a circular guide, you know, piece of tape or something, not to mask it, but just to show like about how where the depth of field would be, like where it would be pulled in. And it is nice too, because when you get further away or further into shadows, you lose detail. So by having these tones a little bit more blurred out with zero texture and then more texture here, it's going to give you even more effective depth. This is so fun. I'm so excited for today. Alright, so now I'm gonna take care of some of these background tones, really soften them up. Up and down, left and right, kind of cross-hatching my blending strokes, but now I'm gonna do circular movements. And again, it's a very light touch. Unless I see something that's egregiously sharp, then I'll push a little bit harder. Like, see this little bounding box that's almost around that ledge there? I'm gonna come in with a smaller blender, a really small blender actually. This little guy. Where's this little guy? Look how big it is compared to my fingernail. It's very teeny tiny. It's like the size of a cuticle. I'm gonna come in here. Just kind of blend those out. Just to create some softness. Nice. I see like a little like shape here. See it goes so I want to take care of that too. Now there's already pigment on the canvas. I don't really need to add more. I'm just going to adjust what's there. So I'm going to use this little soft blender. Buff out that edge. Pull it up into that edge. A little too sharp on this line here, so I'm going to buff out that background line there. Awesome. Very excited about that. Very soft. Over here we got a couple of chunks that are still too sharp. Like that's a really sharp edge right there. While I got this brush out, come in and two hairs in some air. As Bobby Ross would say, we're gonna soften up that. Gonna keep holding it vertical. Look at that. Nice, nice, nice. Go a little bit straighter on here. Buff that out. This is some of the most like zen, enjoyable painting that one can do. Honestly, it's just create and obliterate, create and obliterate. We got a lot of tones here that are sharpened up still from our previous layers, so let's soften those guys up. And clean up my brush really quick. Give me a chance to do that. How are you guys holding up? Doing alright? Is it still weird out there? I feel like things get heated and then calm down, then heated and calm down, then heated and calm down. So, hopefully everybody's doing okay. Alright, so that's a little bit more yellow on that wall, so we're going to mix up a little bit of this light yellow ochre into this Naples yellow, and just drop some tones here. Do we need perspective lines there? Not really, but I do want it to be a little bit brighter. So, oh, alright, now we're really testing the waters here. Is that errant brushstroke, that ridiculous shape that I just threw down there, gonna blend out? Let's find out as a team. Alright, let's see. Alright, I will start by trying to fix this mistake that I just dropped down by not focusing too hard. Up and down. Oh, move my hand so you can see it. Up and down. A little bit of pressure. A little bit of circular. I can still see some streakiness in there, but it is disappearing into the mist. Ugh, I picked up a chunk of paint right there with my blending fan brush. Okay, there we go, let's soften you up. See, look at that, even though it was just kind of like oopsie, and I dropped a little bit too much pigment, still able to blend it out, soften it up. I'm getting a little bit closer to what that reference looks like. Though it looks like in my reference, it's so hard to do this backwards on the camera. Up there, it gets a little bit darker, like in this section here on my reference, so I'm going to pull some more warm tones down here. And by warm, I mean that transparent red like oxide mix that I got earlier. And we'll kind of just like drop them in here. Soft, gentle. A little bit of pressure, buff it out, buff it out, buff it out, buff it out. Cool. Where are we at? 40 minutes. Alright, cool. We got about 20 minutes of playtime here. Let's just keep getting these edges softer. Let's take this stupid purpley line right here and get rid of it entirely. I'm going to go in with that cool dark that I made earlier. I'm going to have to make some more actually, so bear with me here. This is Raw Umber. This is French Ultramarine Blue. I think I'm going to clean up my palette before our next stream so that I can not have as much of a mess and you can see my tones a little bit better. And we should just drop right over there, kind of erasing the edge that was already there, and then we're going to blend one side into the other. I am excited to work on this graffiti. Since I went and got tattooed by a graffiti artist recently, I've been really inspired on figuring out how I want those tags to look. I like to work quick, obviously also because I'm creating a streaming series. I like to work quick, and I could technically, if I wanted to, like get in here and be like, alright, I really need to buff this just the tiniest bit. But that's not as much fun for me, right? I like the chaos of it. And then later on I can go back in and super fine tune. And we're 10 hours in almost on this painting, and I think we'll be able to knock the whole thing out in like 20. And I have another idea for a large format painting to do after this one, so no rush. I'm not going to try to get in and out of this too quickly, but I do have other stuff I'm excited to get to for you guys. And for myself, obviously I do this for myself. Okay, these yellow dots here, these are, look at that, that's not going anywhere, that's baked in. That's from a dried session, and I'm going to need to really layer over that to smooth that out. But in my reference, the graffiti comes a little further in this way. So I'll drop a couple pop colors, couple pop tones in there. There's a different brush entirely for that one. Let's make a nice little dab of brighter yellow pop tones. I'm balancing my pinky on this mask when I hold my brush up so as to not smudge anything that's already down there. And it looks like there's a little bit of, in my reference, right up here, there's a little bit of like a highlight that's running up there. I don't know if that's helpful for our painting or not, but let's throw it in there, and if we don't like it, we can always just remove it. Always a problem. Or, never a problem. That's what I meant. I wish that was a Freudian slip, but there's no way that that was even remotely a slip. Alright, let me see. And it's kind of like a coolish gray, so let's just pull off this cool pile here. It is so fun doing this with no guide or ruler, you know? Just kind of pulling verticals with my hand and hoping that they stay vertical as we go. I will say it's objectively wobbly, but that's fine. Light pressure, super light pressure. Push that into the netherworld of the background there, but that gives us a little bit of a something, some kind of contrasty thing in the background to give it, I don't know, a world that it's living in. We'll see. Again, if we don't like it, we can always just layer it out. It's not too terrible. Not too terrible. It's supposed to get darker as it goes higher, so let me let that disappear in that direction. Cool. Feeling good about that. How much time we got? 14 minutes. I'm going to pull in some darkness from the corners, downward, inwards, like a vignette, essentially. And then we will start peeling tape and see what it looks like underneath. So, I think I'm going to grab a decent amount of liquid here. Where should I mix this up at? I'll mix up a little pile right here. See how transparent that is? There's almost nothing there. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to mix up my special sauce. It's going to be some raw umber, some alizarin crimson, some French ultramarine blue, and we're going to get a deep tone, tiniest bit of black, not too much because we don't want to desaturate it all. We're going to get a deep tone that's like a near black, but that we can fully and wholly glaze out. Nice. Oh yeah, looking good. Chicken good. Now I'll come back to, or I'll use a newer blending brush after I drop these strokes down. Let's see, I've got about right there, okay. So I'm gonna pull this in from the sides, in the corners. And I'm gonna pull them each direction. A lot of this stuff, unfortunately, I'm so sorry, is off camera for you because we're zoomed in, cropped in nice and tight. Well, maybe not a lot of it, some of it, but not a lot. But you'll be able to see once I start yanking in the blending brush how much this little vignette sets things up. Alright, nice soft brush. Obliterate up and down, left and right, and then pull in from the corners. Vignette. Back in the day when I really first started painting with acrylics, like in like week 2, I would straight up take black spray paint and just go around the edges to get a vignette. It's so chaotic. Nice. This is giving me some coolness in the background too, which is helpful for the warmth in the foreground. See that? See how that tunes things? It's cooling it off too, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, that vignette's really going to drive our eyes towards the middle. And I've been wanting to do this this entire time I've been working on this painting too, is to darken out the edges so it has like a noir vignette look to it. I don't know if it's going to really work over the bottom corners over here where the cement is, but like I said, we can always buff it back out if we don't like it. But let's see. Ooh, that got really green for some reason. I wonder what that is. I wonder what I picked up that made that green. Shouldn't be. I'm gonna grab a rag and I'm gonna pull that backwards, and maybe I can zoom my camera in a little bit closer so you guys can see that part of the process too. Alright, let me set these down, and then we're gonna try to use a rag to lift some of this. This is an old t-shirt. We're gonna try to lift. Let me slide this in so you can see a little bit better. I'll try to lift up some of this glaze that I dropped that I don't like. That's that glaze I don't like. That. How much softer that is. Yeah, I must have picked up some yellow from the brush because I didn't use a new brush for creating that shadow glaze. And I've been using all these warm tones throughout and gave it a little bit of a bluish greenish look. But it's kind of cool, to be honest. Like, this is like mega green right now. Watch, I'll buff this section out too. I gotta be careful because I already put some tones up here earlier. So a lot of this is still wet. Dial that down a little bit. Nice. Nice. Okay. So now the fun part. Start peeling. Oh, you know what? While I have this mask up, I'm going to tune this little part. I don't know if you guys can see this near the foot right here. It was always bothering me that was a little bit just off. So I'm just going to really quick, while I have the mask out, just tune that. Straight lines there. There we go. Alright, cool. And I'll do a little bit over there too. Over there meaning on this other foot. Sorry, I get really excited and I forget to narrate what I'm doing. Buff out that little bit of a halo edge that's already there. Cool. Alright, now comes the fun part. Now we can start peeling this tape off and see how we did with our blurry background day. Should I use a knife for this? Let me give me a second, I'll grab a palette knife here. One that doesn't have any paint on it. Alright. Uh-oh. What just happened there? Can you guys hear that? I think I accidentally hit the play button on my headphones here and started throwing music at you. My bad. Sorry about that. Okay. I got just a palette knife here. I'm going to start picking up the tape, and looks like it doesn't have any paint on it. We're going to find out as a team, I guess. Start yanking this tape up. I see some fingers. took like an hour to put this on. I wonder if it's gonna take me an hour to peel this off. If I had tweezers would probably lift this easier, or an X-Acto knife. Something that isn't, something a little bit more surgical. Alright, now we're cooking with gas. Alright, let me see if I can get some bigger pieces off here. Hi, Face. How you doing back there? This is good painter's tape. Good masking tape. Didn't really expect, look, there's a bunch of blotchiness up there. I'm going to be able to blur that out, though, with my blending brush. I didn't expect this to stick so good. I actually, when I was shopping earlier today, trying to find masking tape for this project, I was nervous that it would all be crap, and that it wouldn't stick at all, and that I would be ruining my foreground feature here, but so far, it's a lot harder to peel off than I expected. And I don't want to like dig my finger in there because I don't want to yank off any paint that's like still adhering to the gesso board. I wish this was one big whoosh, snap peel, but we gotta be patient, that's fine too. The next video will just be me continuously peeling off tape. Hour 4 of removing masking tape. It'd be dope if we did all of this and then it just looks stupid. Well, I guess I'll have to redo the whole painting now. Because I'm streaming this, it's so much more fun working on this painting than if I wasn't. If like straight up, if this was just a project that I was doing for myself, I would have already gotten to the point where I'm like, I hate it, which is a crucial, important point to get to as an artist, because once you get to that point, you know that you're onto something, and that you're just not hitting the vision perfect, but that you're like getting closer. So, but this has been just a blast through and through. There we go. Terrible. Closer, nearer. Nice. I think I just smudged some paint right there, yeah. Alright, well, I'm gonna have to reshape the hip there, that's for sure. Alright, just gotta get this piece off the hair and we can tune a couple things and take a closer look. Ideally, all of this background would have been done before we even started the foreground, but the theme of this project is that I'm relearning how to do all this in front of you, and the masking process, like I said, is something that I never really did before. Alright, so there's some splotchiness up here. I'm just going to take a new clean brush and just try to lift up as much of that as I can. It looks like what happened is maybe some of the oils from the background layer, the new layer that we did, kind of interfered. I don't have any Q-tips on me, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fashion a removal rag here using a part of this old t-shirt and just like wrap it around the tip of a paintbrush. Wrap my arm up here, and it's not going to be awesome, but it'll help me lift some of these tones up. See that? How I can just clean up, because the layer underneath it's already dry. It's just the new stuff is wet, so this will let me lift it off that lower layer, and then I can use a small blender. Let's put it here. Just kind of pull those tones away, buff it upwards and away from the arms. Here, cleaned it up pretty good. Do a little bit more tuning in the next session, but that's all right. And then what else did I mess up? Let's see. Oh yeah, over there in the pants. I'm not too worried about that right now. I'll deal with that later. I think this is pretty rad. Let's take a closer look if we can. Let's see how good my cameras can focus. So you can see how the background is now way more out of focus than when we had first started, which gives the foreground a little bit more sharpness, which is something we're going for. But yeah, I dig it. It's not too terrible. I'm excited. I'm gonna have to focus on the next stream of getting a lot more sharpness now in our foreground figure. That background is blurry, but the contrast exists if the foreground is focused and the background is not. So far, all of these tones, these are like essentially, even though there's some variations in hue, they're flat fields. They're flat fields of color. So I'm going to go off book, close the reference, and just really zoom in and really hone in and try to get some details in there. So I'll probably put a lot of reflectiveness in the stretchy sports bra leggings to give it some realism, maybe like some shine, some shimmer. Hairs, individual hairs I'm gonna have to work on. The tattoos, I'm definitely gonna just jump into that next session because as you can see, focus or lighting, as you can see, it's still implied but not it's still suggested but not described, right? It's still just, oh yeah, that's where her sleeve is, but you can't see any of it. I think it might be time to start actually making tattoos on this girl. Yeah. I'm happy with how these little ballerina flats are working out. These flesh tone ballerina flats, pretty rad. All right, I think that's gonna do it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Quick addendum note, we're trying to get to the point where we can monetize our channel so that we can do this full time. And by this I mean the painting streams, but also the traveling the world and reporting back. If you watch our full length or long format videos, you'll see that the real passion is just visiting other countries and talking to tattooers and learning what the global tattoo scene is all about. But we can only afford to do that when we can start making money doing this stuff. So, long-winded way of saying, please like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. If you know anybody that might be interested, like send them a link to the channel. You can hit the little share button, the little arrow, and then send it off like a text message or whatever. And if they like this kind of content, just be like, hey, listen, follow, just give them a subscribe, give us a subscribe so that we can get that number high enough so that we can start to monetize. You guys don't have to give us money, but so that YouTube starts giving us money. And then we'll be able to reinvest that back in our travels and everything. So, cool. Thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate you. I will see you guys later.